Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Happy Friday. This is Ask That. And today I have with me a good buddy of mine, Aaron Douglas, and we're going to get a little bit, we're going to have a healthy conversation, a conversation on remote working, health, whatever else comes in. Aaron, how are you, sir?
Good, good. We have to talk about tater tots too, of course.
Yes, you mentioned that a few times, but on my ketogenic lifestyle, I don't think I'm allowed to have such tots.
Unless they're made of cauliflower, I think, right?
Ooh, I didn't think about making cauliflower tots. Maybe this should just be the show on tots.
I could talk a while, yes.
Yeah. So before we get there, let's do a quick intro. Why don't you give the people who you are?
Sure. I'm Aaron Douglas. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I've been working remote for the last almost 5 years for a company called Automattic. We're the company behind WordPress.com, Simple Note, a couple other faces like WooCommerce. Before that, I was primarily an engineer that was a field consultant and switched over to doing development full time right before I came to Automattic. But working remote has really changed my life. I've talked about it before, had conversations at length with Clark about the subject as well. But it has really changed how I perceive what work can be, and it's made me, I think, a better human overall. So I try to spread the word as much as possible.
Yeah, and I'm excited to have this conversation. I mean, for everybody listening and watching, you and I have known each other for quite a while now, a good number of years, and we both work remote. I think which is its own set of challenges, just being confined in one space, and health has been a big thing for both you and I. It's still very much a daily struggle for me. I don't think I have conquered mind or body by any stretch, and maybe I just never will, and I should just give up and go back to whatever before. But let's talk. Like let's get a bit vulnerable here. Let's dive into you a bit.
Sure.
And you've made some super big statements. Working remote saved your life. I mean, these can sound hyperbolic, but I want to dispel that. And so where did this start? Like, what was Aaron's, holy shit, something's got to change.
Yeah. So I didn't really realize there was a problem. Like, I knew that I was overweight, but the thing is, like, I was what I would call fat and happy. Like, I didn't feel like the weight that I had encumbered my life. I still did things that I enjoyed, but it was when I started working remote for Automattic, it was about 2 months in, barely 2 months in, and I just wasn't adjusting. Couldn't focus. Everything was just a struggle, and I felt like I wasn't really, like, they say that imposter syndrome is in everybody, so I assumed it was just imposter syndrome. But after a little while, I realized that I just couldn't do it, and I nearly quit because I just thought I wasn't compatible with the job.
What did that look like? How do you know? Was this like Aaron had super like self-reflection, or did you get hit? Like, was there some extreme, like, I just can't do this anymore? Like, how did you know?
I guess when I think back, I work with some really fantastic people that are just producing code all the time. They're involved in so many things, and I was struggling to just get like one task done that I thought would be something I could get done in, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days, and It was taking me over a week. And working remote, of yourself that there's just distractions everywhere. Communication coming from 100 different places, and I just felt like I wasn't grasping onto what was happening, not just with my job, but with the company in general. It was so much, and I was stressed out. I think that was really the indicator to me, is that I was leaving work, if you will. I was walking out of my office at the end of the day feeling like I didn't get anything done. I don't feel like I accomplished anything.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's not me.
I think that bit of being productive and being at home, I think that's amplified by working remote. You know,
Yeah, definitely.
you're in solitary confinement, if you will. You have to be super disciplined to go do your thing. I mean, this is a purpose like built home office, and I know I often struggle with the what the hell did got done today. Like meetings for me have become like a wasteland of like I don't. This is silly. Like why we should be able to make this decision in 5 minutes, and yet we're taking an hour and a half for.
Well, and honestly, like video conversations like this, and not you, of course, but
Well, it better not be.
yeah, video meetings are like emotionally exhausting for me.
Yeah.
Like they are, because I'm so used to now working in an asynchronous type of manner that when you are doing synchronous work, you're like, you still get that back thread going. What can I be doing? And but like the trend was like clicked in my head that there was something wrong with the way I was perceiving myself, my universe, whatever. And I kind of figured my whole life that I had some form of ADD, attention deficit disorder. And so I finally went to my doctor and said, hey, like, what can we do? He referred me to a counselor. She does a lot of things like with people with adult ADHD, substance abuse. Like she's just an overall great counselor. And so we worked through it and, pretty much came to the conclusion that that's a form of what I have. But really what started doing the change for me for my health, it wasn't that I was diagnosed, but it was the fact that I started doing things like getting outside of the house in the middle of the day, just to switch sort of the brain cells around.
Yep.
And I started realizing that I needed that every day.
Yeah.
And that turned into going for bike rides and going for walks and just making it part of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a big problem for me, is getting out. It's very easy to put in an 80-hour week without even thinking. Like, I mean, I can see outside, and there's always tomorrow, right? I put in a 12-hour day like it's nothing, and you're worried about not being productive, and yet, one day turns into 2 days and 3 days, and then you're like, I haven't left the house. Like, I literally have not gone outside.
That is a real effect. Like when you go to the grocery store and you realize, oh, I haven't gone out of the house in like 12 days. Oh my God, I'm seeing other people.
Yeah, it's messed up.
But
I know there's a lot of glorifying working at home, and I believe me, I love it, but people need to recognize that this has also been I think for me, we're well over 10 years of working remote, and there's been a lot of peaks and valleys, and the 6 stairs up from the office is not a commute. Like there's to do this context switch, to do the switch from work mode to daddy mode to me mode to husband mode. Like those are all, it doesn't happen in 6 stairs.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like you have to have a separate office. You have to have rituals. You have to take that shower in the morning. Like there's things that you still have to do because if you want to shut it off, it takes conscious effort to be able to step away from your job.
Yeah. So you go to a counselor, you work through it. Now what? So
now what? I guess I don't like tracking weight as a indicator of success of your health is improved. But I was nearly 300 pounds when I first started working at Automattic. 280, I think 290, something like that.
That's up there.
And just from like getting out, connecting with the outdoors, and even during the winter, I do like the whole 1980s step aerobics in the basement just because it was easy, cheap equipment to buy. And like I'm down after about 5 years, I'm down to around 204 pounds, 205 pounds. And that's super gradual. Like it's not, like I can look at the slope line of the weight loss, and it's not drastic whatsoever, but I've seen, the days that I don't do something physical, those are the days I can't really concentrate. So it's now slipped in to just be part of my daily life, and that I never figured would happen. Like if I looked at myself 5 years ago that I am today, I never would have thought I would have been that person that just would have been doing an active Like when I always ask you, your doctor asks you, do you have an active lifestyle? Or are you sedentary? Like I never figured I'd be on the active side, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't consider myself like a gym bunny or whatever.
What when how long did it take before it became like I have to do this because I have to imagine it's like Friday. I haven't even started on. I have to imagine that this. I can just to give everybody a bit of context. So I had gotten up to about 260. My journey has been over the past couple of years. My weight's fallen off a bit faster over the 5 years, but I would say I'm still not even there, and like where I have to go work out. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. I've been locked in the office for the past year and have I now know that I need to get out.
Hmm.
Um, how long was it before you really kind of put it all together?
If I look back at like the tracking, because that was the other thing I used, like Runkeeper and Fitbit to track the activities, just so I could see the
Sure.
level of success over time. And
Yeah.
I wasn't doing things regular, probably for 2 years. I would do 2 days a week. I'd go for a bike ride, maybe three. But it wasn't until I did this like 30-day challenge with this step aerobics person that has Jenny Ford. She has all these videos on YouTube. She did a 30-day challenge, and when I did that and realized how much it really did change um, the everyday aspect of it, I think that's when
Interesting.
it clicked.
So
Yep.
do you track the everyday aspect? So like, okay, so you said you're hyper focused on tracking like your weight and doing the exercise stuff. How were you tracking the other side of life to say, hey, look, there's a correlation between these two, or was it just kind of mentally, or like, I just feel better?
I mean, it's a lot of self-reflection, like on a daily basis. So the days where I didn't work out, um, like I've been doing meditation as well, and that sort of helps
Yep.
with reflection.
Yep.
Of course, the meditation's only been the past year and a half or so, but I think early on, my counselor helped me take an approach to build a toolbox of things to try out, like the standing desk, treadmill desk, taking like a journal of things. So I think my mindset was try a little change, let it sit for a while, see if you like it, and if it doesn't match well, then stop. And so the exercise to me was sort of like that experiment, like, oh, let's try this in the morning, let's try it in the evening, let's go over
Sure.
lunch.
Sure.
And so I think I just noticed, and maybe it's placebo effect, who knows? But I'm a firm
Yeah.
believer in the placebo effect. Um, I just noticed that if I did something around the middle of the day, I had two like 4 hour good chunks of time where I could
Yeah.
concentrate.
So what's in your? You mentioned a toolbox. Like, what's in your toolbox?
Today, the toolbox continually changes,
Yeah.
but as of today, it's primarily the standing desk because the shifting between sitting and standing can
Yep.
help set things.
Yep.
A good pair of wireless,
Yep.
or actually these are the wired ones, but the noise canceling headphones.
Yep.
Um, I've recently moved to like the country, so I have an awesome view outside. Uh, I have the bicycle running is been over the winter. Just hate biking when it's cold out, but I seem to be
Yeah.
okay with running. I'm trying to think what else. My husband actually has been working at home for almost 2 years now, and I thought that would totally drive me bonkers having somebody else in the house.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's actually been one of the toolbox things, somebody to talk to on my break.
Yep.
Um, I have an older dog that has to get let out, and that's sort
Yep.
of like it's a great context shift. And having him here as well as like we can share the responsibilities. But it's actually been really great because especially during the summer, I'm working up in the Dells area near the Kalahari in our
Mm-hmm.
trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. My little
So
secret
having the
spy.
ability yeah, having the ability to shift where I work is a big help too because
Yeah.
I'll get bored working in this office.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Carrie, we have. This is I'm pointing that way because that's the
yep.
rest of our office, and Carrie's got a desk back there, and it's a very kind of it's turned into a very kind of a co-working space, and just sometimes to have the other noise helps not feel in such isolation. But
Yep.
then there's always kind of crosstalk and stuff. But um, Yeah, I'm with you. You mentioned meditation as part of your habit. I know
Hmm.
that's something. It's something that I've recently gotten into. I have not. I'm having the moment of where I need it. I say need it, but I haven't had the moment with it yet. If that
Right.
makes any sense. Like you mentioned, it's a good time for self reflection. I pretty much sit in my head and go, why the hell can't you focus for all of 10 to 15 minutes? Like, it's like squirrel.
Right,
Okay,
right.
back
Shiny.
squirrel.
Yep. Yep.
So what are you doing for meditation? We'll
Uh,
start there.
yeah, I'm doing mindful meditation, and I'm primarily using the Calm app.
Okay.
I've tried Headspace too, a horse apiece for me. But with like mindful meditation, it's less about what you think about, and it's just about staying present in the moment.
Sure.
Um, and you try to do the 10-minute meditations every single day. And actually, if I look, I think I've been doing it for like 390 days straight. I have a streak
Wow.
going. So,
That's pretty awesome.
uh, some days I don't actually get to do the recorded one, but like if it's say like 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, oh, I haven't done it. Well, then I don't have my headphones with. I'll just do a quick 5 minute in my
Sure.
mind.
Sure.
But what I find is that having done it for even just a few months when I was into it, I'd be out for like a bike ride or a run, and I'd realize how much I was stuck in my head just thinking about problems, and I would
Mm,
switch into the mode of like noticing things on the path or hearing birds chirping. Like I don't even listen to music anymore when I'm exercising because I like hearing the stuff around me.
yeah. Yeah.
And you start seeing it slip into your regular life.
Interesting.
Getting stressed at work, you know.
Yeah. I haven't gotten there yet.
It
Um,
it
but
doesn't take long.
I've been a bit on and off. Like I started this year and said like I have to focus on this. And the last I don't know month I've gotten a bit off the rails, but um, such is life. I mean, I try to course correct.
Yep. The
Um,
thing is, like with was it BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits, the thing that Denise Jacobs brought up back in
yep,
2013.
yep.
It's really true. Like if you want to change a habit or behavior, you kind of got to staple it on to something else that you do. So like for me, the meditation is something that I do in the morning. I get up, I get the dogs fed. I have a diabetic dog, so he gets the insulin shot. So I have to get up at a certain time.
Yep.
Then
Yep.
I do the meditation before I actually get started for the day. And that way I don't have the excuse of the day halfway through saying, oh, I got to still do it. 90% of the time it's right in the morning when I do it before I do work.
Sure. Yeah, I'm struggling with the morning routine. It's changed so many times. I know, I make time to make sure that I get to see the kids and do some things with the kids before they get off to school. But it's like I'm super productive in the morning relative to afternoon. That's
Hmm.
become a thing that I've realized. And so I've tried to reorganize the work to have the harder work up front than some of the other stuff. But of course, your environment around you also dictates that.
Yep.
Like if I could do meetings in the afternoon, like late afternoon, like that'd be perfect. Because I can do that without like having to really focus all the brain power to do the other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I want to go back to what kind of started earlier. So this all saved your life, right?
Right.
That's a very bold statement. So were you dying, and how did this happen?
So, okay. I will admit I probably would not be dead today had I not started
Maybe.
working remote, but
I
I
mean,
could be.
300 pounds that's up there.
Yeah. I mean, and the trajectory was, gradually getting higher and
Yep.
higher. And,
Yep.
I have hereditary high blood pressure. It's something that I am on medication for since I was like 18 years old. And it
Still,
wasn't getting, what's that?
still.
I still am, even with, like my resting heart rate is around 38 beats per minute, which is
Okay.
crazy low.
Yeah.
But my blood pressure is still crappy. So I'm on meds. I will be on meds all my life. I'll have to,
Interesting.
my meds will keep getting higher and higher because the older you get, the worse your blood pressure will get with what I have. So, um, but then I looked at, there were some other things like the high blood pressure. I had cluster headaches diagnosed and they were awful. Like I was getting them 2 to 20 times a day. They'd last from
Wow.
30 seconds to like an hour. I wasn't being able to work. And it seems like since I've been losing weight that the frequency and the duration of them have decreased tremendously. I'll get them 2, 3 times a month rather
Hmm.
than every single day.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, my neurologist thinks that it's possibly the brain chemicals from working out that are helping keep things under
Sure.
control. Um, yeah, and then I know there's something else I usually talk about. I can't think of it right now with the health wise, but I just know that had I not started working remote, I would not be where I am at. And I could say I probably extended my life just being healthier.
Sure. Well, that's for damn sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we're not a little bit more honest at least in the U.S. I mean, we are a fat ass country, and I know people don't really want to hear it, but that's the reality of it. We are
Yep.
super overweight. Our food system is messed up, and it's hard to you have to take an active stance to change things. Like
Hmm.
the norm is not set so that you're healthy. Like it's just not the case. And I wish I would have had like in my 30s, which I had that moment of like, damn, dude, like when did you get so fat? Like you said, it was just like in the gradual fat and happy. And
Actually, now that you mentioned that, I did have that like turning point before I started working remote. Um, I was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation.
okay,
Um,
yeah,
I woke up one morning and my heart was just beating weird, and that
yep,
had happened to me before. After a night of drinking with friends and not drinking enough water, so you wake up
sure,
a little dehydrated. Well, this time I, drank that big cup of water in the morning and it didn't go away. And I went to work and I said, okay, if it doesn't go away by like 9 o'clock, I'm going to go to the ER. And it didn't go away. I went to the ER and they checked it out, and my heart was just beating like atrial fibrillation. If you're not aware of what it is, it's the electrical patterns on your outside of your heart go wonky, and your heart starts beating abnormally in different patterns instead of
yeah,
being in sync. And that itself is not as risky of a thing. It's when your heart is beating irregularly like that, it has the ability to pool the blood within the heart, which can form a clot. And so AFib is not usually what you would get killed from. It's from a blood clot or a stroke. Um, and so I was 31 at the time when that happened.
yeah,
And that was a huge wake up to me and that's when I started to get like, I bought a bike, started to do things, but I wasn't
yeah.
super serious about it. And then 2 years later is when I started working remote and like all clicked.
So what was it about the working remote piece? I mean, we started talking about this about how damn hard it is, and we are locked up in our house. So how has it helped you in this?
Honestly, it's super simple. I loved biking to work when I was working in an office, but I hated having to take a shower at work. I hated the
Mm-hmm.
going for a walk during lunch and coming back and you smell like fresh sweat, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like even though the one office I worked in had showers, I just never felt like I wanted to bring my clothes to work and get ready there. So working from home is so super convenient where like I can look presentable, but I could smell horrible because I just went for a run,
Yeah.
and then I can take a shower. And
Yeah.
then like just the convenience of being able to set my own schedule has made it no longer the excuse of
Yeah.
why I don't do things, you
I,
know?
I was actually going to say, like, how much while working remote is the obvious, like, I can go for a run kind of at any time. I mean, I guess you could do that depending on where you work too, but there's a lot of culture that's wrapped up into that. I mean, so your peers and your workplace has bought into the fact that Aaron needs to, uh, his day is going to be constructed a little bit differently than somebody else's day. And I don't know
Mhm.
that that's necessarily the case for everybody while they're remote. Because I don't know that.
Oops, sorry about
Hey,
that.
I'm not calling you. No.
No, no, no,
Uh,
that's yeah,
I don't know that everybody's necessarily bought into that, from as a whole,
right.
which is unfortunate because if you're really, like, if you, I mean, you run a company and you want your people to not only be the most productive but the happiest and the most efficient, and then the old like work 8 hours straight seems super stupid in the world that we live in today, where you can be connected and kids have to go to doctors and you need to go to doctors. Like if you that
Yep.
rigid schedule isn't necessarily the best schedule.
Right, right. And that's the thing that really attracted me to working at Automattic because we try to defer to asynchronous communication as much as possible.
Sure.
I have worked with people that are remote, but they're literally at home. They have to be signed into their phone. If they're not green in the messaging program, then they're not working. And I've told people before that if you work for an employer that doesn't understand something as simple as I'm going to go out for a walk during lunch and I don't want to have to tell everybody that I'm gone for this time and check out, and like if they don't understand the importance of self-care and self-health, then they're probably not the right place to work for, you know. Even my husband's company is like an old traditional enterprise company, and they started a remote program and they give people flexibility. There's core hours, but like he has flexibility to do things, which
like
is
just even saying that is just stupid. It's such a like lack of trust of like, I've hired these people because they're smart and they're going to provide a service for me, and yet, well, we're going to be flexible, but make sure you're there between 9 and 5. Like, it's just a dumbass statement.
Yeah, it's nice being treated as an adult. And like the reality is like I don't have set hours. I don't have to work an exact 40-hour work week, but I have to work a week where I feel like I've put in that amount of effort.
Yeah.
If I have a team member that I'm leading that I feel like they're not putting in enough effort or they're not being productive, then it will show up at some point. Someone's going to mention something to me, like it'll come out at that point. And that's when you talk to them. And sometimes people just get into a rut, like me. 2 months in, I had no idea. And you're going to want to not tell people that I'm not productive. You're not going to say, hey, I don't feel like I'm that productive,
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's hard. And I think it just gets compounded being remote because you always feel like you have to produce more. You always feel like you have to be available. And if the company's culture is one that is not like remote kind of core, I think it just compounds it more and more versus a company who's already bought into it, and then they just understand they have better tools to support it. Jumping on a webcam isn't a big deal because you actually want to see people and be present. But it's hard.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than working for a company when you're remote. And I think it was Jason Fried said in his book, you're the one on that shitty conference speakerphone and basically treated like a second-class citizen in the company. Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah, and it's just so silly. But God, I could just go on and about that. Totally. Only because we've been there. Like, I mean, I guess I'm in 20 years on this, and I've worked remotely now for Microsoft. I worked for a Bulgarian company, Telerik, so remote was 5,000 miles away. We ran a company that was completely remote, and so I've seen like these how drastically different each of them can be, and when they work fantastic, and when they don't, you just feel like you're on an island, and that's no good either. I mean, it just gets in your head, and it's not a good place.
There's a lot of nuances to it for sure.
So looking back, you said you're at 204. I'm a little jealous. I've managed to spike up to 208. So we both have lost a drastic amount of weight over the years. Yeah. How do you stay focused with it? Because I know we've both changed drastically what we eat. Even though you started talking about tater tots.
So that's the thing. Like my diet is not as great as yours. Like I think that's probably why my slope is not as good as it could be, but I'm fine with that. But honestly, like the last 2 years, it's been the Apple Watch. Closing my red ring has been the thing that's really been the motivator every day. And so like the days that are my rest days, and I'll go for a walk with the dog, or I'll make sure to be really active in the house. But it's the stupid red ring that's really been my motivator for the exercise part of it every day.
I will say that the watch is, I used to be a little bit more psychotic about the rings, but all in all, like something that just is actively tracking your day, I think is the fantastic part, right? In fact,
Yep.
I started taking my blood glucose daily. I don't
Mm.
have diabetes, although I think that I may have been on that, like, hey, your trend line doesn't look very good, right?
Right,
And
right.
as developers, I think it's really funny that we're so like ingrained to know about data and like trends and all that, yet we don't necessarily like we have it available. Like you can go get a blood glucose meter for $20. Like
Mm.
you can go get that. You can go get a blood pressure cuff, and those two things every day and taking your weight, like they'll tell you a whole lot about your diet and what you're
Yeah.
doing and how active you are, whether you have one of those things or not. It's very, very telling.
And if
Um,
you go to for your physical and you bring all that data in, it gives the
yes,
doctor a heck of a better picture of what's
yes,
going on.
yes. And so the Apple Health thing for me has been a much more holistic view because I track my weight every day. And I know you'll hear people, I don't know if you're into the daily weight tracking or not, but
At least twice a week I do it.
all right. I have
Yeah.
found that for me daily, not only is it a bit of accountability to just recognize what the last 24 hours have been, but that
Hmm.
you, if watched close enough, you can tell like when certain foods do certain things. For example, um, my wife and I love a local restaurant and we like to imbibe on a few Long Islands. And I can tell you factually that if I have one, I will immediately gain 2 pounds. If I
Wow.
drink two, I will gain another 2 pounds. And over the course of a week, like, of course, okay, water weight, carbs, whatnot, and then it rolls back off. But if it wasn't for me tracking it every day, I would have never known that that one item not only spiked my blood pressure or my blood sugar, but also gained like this immediate weight and had this other reaction. I just would have never seen it.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, and all this stuff is out there. Like you can go do it, and the watch will track it, and you'll see the trends, and you'll see the weights, and
Yep.
um, a few of us have. I don't know if we would call it a mastermind group, but we daily report on our weight and whatnot, and that's also been really helpful to just be accountable to others to say, "Yep, I gained 3 pounds this weekend," and have somebody else go, "What the hell did you eat, brother?" So
Yeah. At Automatic, we do have a Fitomatic room in Slack, and we hang out, and uh, people bring up everything from people doing CrossFit to just general food discussions, or like the big discussion lately has been the iterative fasting.
yep,
Uh, so it's good to have other people, and especially like in the social networks like Strava and Runkeeper and um, Apple Watch. You can do the social
yeah,
stuff, that
not
kind of
like some of
stuff.
the other ones. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's nice having people there and watching and giving you like the thumbs up when you do something.
yes,
So
yeah,
it's small bits like that that keep you motivated.
yeah. So I'm gonna hold on to that question. So before we end here, at the end of every one of these, I extend some gratitude and acknowledge, and I want to acknowledge you for not just being on this, because thank you very much, but really for sharing, and not just sharing here, but I know that you've been out there sharing your story. I know that it is super hard to be uh, as open as it is with all of it, because it takes a lot of self-reflection to say, yeah, I was overweight. You have to admit that stuff to yourself. You have to admit to
Hmm.
others that you know you just weren't there. And I know that I've personally struggled, and so thank you for sharing here and out there. And I look forward to continuing to share our progress, because I'm by far not where I need to be, and I have my moments. Like I went down, and I've just kind of continued straight across, which bugs the living shit out of me. But
I've been on a plateau as well, but as long as it's not going up really bad, I'm
yeah,
cool with it.
yeah,
But yeah, I appreciate you having me here too. I have gratitude for being invited to join you here too. So
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. So that brings me to my last question, and the last question would be: hindsight being 2020, if you were to look across the last 5 years of your journey in this, what would be some of your biggest advice for anybody?
If you're going to work remote, self-care is something that is really important. beyond just the job. Make sure you have stuff that's in your house that's healthy to eat, good for your brain, good for your soul. Recognize that personal space is really important. Listen to yourself. And I mean, this goes way beyond just remote working. I think this can be for anybody, but just take the time to recognize when you're stressed out, and you have the flexibility most likely to address that. Just get out, walk around, make the space that you work in the one that you want to work in. It's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, yep. I would agree with that. You have to invest in your workspace.
Yep. And when you have a quiet room, the only thing to defeat you is your own mind. So
turn the radio on.
Turn the radio on, yes.
I'll double back on the workspace. Like, you need to make it work. A faux office that's just not the deal, right? You need a proper desk, you need proper lights, you need outside light, if you need a radio, get a radio, whatever.
Yep.
Get a good work chair. Get a good webcam.
I was going to say webcam, lighting for people, because it's not just for you, it's for them to see you better. And
that's right. And then, make it all dirty and, stand in front of it.
Busy, right?
That's right. Stand in front of it so people can't see your mess. All right. Well, with that being said, I encourage everybody to leave a comment about what's worked for them, whether it's working remote or health. If you're looking for advice or questions, certainly ask. And not that we are doctors, but anything that we've said here, you cannot hold us legally liable. That is just our opinions and the stuff that has worked for us. But I would encourage everybody to take a moment and spend some time on themselves. Aaron, thank you much for being here today. How can people find more about you?
You can look at my blog. It's aaron.blog, AARON.blog. I'm also on Twitter and a bunch of other places as Astral Bodies. But it's easy just to go to aaron.blog and find me there and go from there. Like questions, comments, whatever. I'm really open to interacting with everybody about what I've learned. And my toolbox is always open for change. So
yeah, totally.
Yep.
Yeah, you said you use Calm. I use Headspace. We'll leave some links below to the different things that we brought up today. If there's a tool that works for somebody out there, I think it's great.
Cool.
With that being said, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great weekend, and find a remote job, save your life.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good way to end it.
And we'll talk about cauliflower tots later, I guess.
Oh, yes. I got to get on that. Yeah. Now I'm hungry. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.